Welcome to the 30K channel with your hosts Connor and David.
Yep, in this game we are playing the Garrison relief from Rindsworld, and we are pitting the Imperial Navy against the ORK AIR WAAGH.
Yeah, today bringing something very different. The Orks are playing an incredibly defensive list, a lot of 3 heavy bombers, and then a huge amount of anti-air guns.
Yeah, we thought we'd mix this one up a little bit because we figured that, you know, it's a Garrison relief. So the Orks are being relieved by these big bombers with cargo and with troops and stuff.
Offloading more Orks.
Yeah, and we figured that the Imperial Navy would fly into a hail of kind of, you know, anti-air fire.
Yeah, that's what we were picturing. And so we've got only the 3 aircraft, and then out of 150 points, come out with 8 or 9 anti-air guns. So
it's pretty formidable. There is a lot of firepower in there. But I reckon, you know, if we can strafe some of those turrets off early game, that will reduce the firepower coming back. The aircraft have been equipped to deal with those ground assets, and then hopefully we'll get some bombs on the ground target and score some points.
Yeah, and they are only structure point 2, so any of the extra damage in the Imperial Navy has a lot of extra damage. Any of those will destroy outright a lot of targets. Yeah,
fingers crossed. Hopefully we can get some assets off the board early turn. All right, let's have a look at those fleets and we'll go into turn 1.
The ORK WAAAGH is composed of 2 identically equipped Eavy Bombers, both armed with additional pair of wing-mounted rockets. They also have a nose turret, dorsal turret, port and starboard big shooters, and a rear bomb bay. Additionally, a Grot Bomber equipped with quad big shooters, a port and starboard turret, and a pair of Grot Bombs. The Orks also brought 5 Eavy flak cannons and 3 Flakk Platforms.
The Imperial Navy consists of 1 Thunderbolt Fury equipped with a Avenger Bolt cannon and a twin las cannon. It has also been upgraded to take 2 sets of Skystrike Missiles. There are 2 Marauder Destroyers equipped with Ejector Seats, wing bombs and Skystrike Missiles. The destroyers are armed with autocannons, dorsal turret, rear turret and a bomb bay. There are 2 Marauder Bombers equipped with las cannons, dorsal turret, rear turret, bomb bay, and are equipped with an Ejector Seat and Skystrike Missiles.
Garrison relief, turn 1, after issuing maneuvers, rolling for initiative. Ooh, it's won by the Imperial Navy.
Yep, the Navy will take initiative. Garrison relief, turn 1 movement, starting with the Marauder number 4, executed a level flight at speed 4, altitude 5, trying to stay above the effective fire of the Eavy flak cannons.
First activation for the ORK WAAAGH, Eavy Bomber number 2, racing forwards towards the Ork Garrison at speed 4, altitude 1, looking to provide early relief.
Marauder Destroyer number 2 completes a level flight at speed 4, altitude 5, again staying above the effective altitude of those Eavy flak cannons for the first turn.
Second activation, Grot Bomber number 3 moves towards the airspace of the objective, also looking to line up a landing for the following turn.
Thunderbolt Fury number 1 performed a level flight at speed 3, altitude 5, just following up on the rear of that Marauder Destroyer.
Final activation for the ORK WAAAGH, Eavy Bomber number 1 also performing a level flight at speed 4, altitude 1, also moving towards the objective.
The remaining moves were Marauder Destroyer number 3 and the Marauder Bomber number 5. They both were at altitude 5 and performed a level flight at speed 4.
Garrison relief, turn 1 firing phase. The Eavy flak cannons at long range opened up on the encroaching Imperial Navy, also out of altitude, therefore hitting on 6s. With 5 shots, there were 0 hits.
Garrison relief, end phase, turn 1. The Imperial Navy did a really good job staving off the Eavy flak cannon attacks from the Orks. However, they did not get an opportunity to fire, but they will start to decrease their altitude in the next couple of turns to bring them in range.
Yep, the Orks moving in towards the objective, hoping to be able to secure the core victory points for the mission before the Imperial Navy is directly overhead and dropping bombs on the landed aircraft.
Garrison relief, turn 2 movement phase, starting off with Marauder Bomber number 4, performed another level flight at speed 4, altitude 5. After performing its move, it dropped to altitude 4 and increased its speed to 5.
First activation for the ORK WAAAGH, Grot Bomber number 3, clearing the airspace for the Eavy Bombers to follow in behind it and lining up its landing for the following turn, having decreased its speed from 4 to 3, still at altitude 1.
Marauder Destroyer performs a level flight and moves forward 4 hexes at altitude 5, At the end of its movement, it drops to altitude 4 and increases its speed to 5.
Second activation for the ORK AIR WAAAGH Eavy Bomber number 2, decelerating from speed 4 to 3, maintaining altitude 1 and drawing up its speed on its own landing for the following turn.
The Thunderbolt Fury performed a level flight, but at the beginning of its move increased its speed from 3 to 5, and then at the end of its movement reduced its altitude from 5 to 3, biding its time to get an opportune shot on the grounded ORK aircraft. This then unfortunately increases the speed from 5 to 7, which puts it over its maximum speed, but risks breaking up, so a roll is required. On a 3+, the Thunderbolt is okay. On a 1 to 2, it suffers a structure point. Oh, thankfully that passes.
Final activation for the ORK AIR WAAAGH Eavy Bomber number 1, also de-throttling from speed 4 to speed 3, maintaining a level flight at altitude 1. Due to the Eavy Bomber number 2 in the same hex Eavy Bomber number 1 would have landed in, an occupied hex roll was made, and nothing happens as the aircraft pushes its engines.
Marauder Destroyer number 3 performed a level flight at speed 4, altitude 5, and increased its speed from 4 to 5. Last move for the Imperial Navy, Marauder Bomber number 5 performed another level flight, speed 4, altitude 5. At the end of its movement, it dove to altitude 4 and increased its speed from 4 to 5. Garrison relief, turn 2 firing phase. The Imperial Navy unfortunately have no weapons that are able to fire against the Orks.
The ORK AIR beginning their defensive fire against the encroaching Imperial Navy, beginning the activation with the Grot Bomber number 3, firing its 2 Grot Bombs, one moving directly forward and one moving towards enemy Marauder Destroyer number 3. First to activate, the Grot Bomb facing towards Marauder Destroyer number 2, rolled the full 6 for its movement distance, travelled up to 3 to keep itself stopping just short of the target, not wanting to overshoot. The second Grot Bomb with a roll of a 4 at a speed of 5, travelled forward 4 hexes, also stopping short of its target, Marauder Destroyer number 3. Next, the Orks opening up with their artillery fire against the encroaching Imperial Navy. 3 of the heavy flak cannons combine their firepower into Marauder Destroyer number 2, resulting in a total of 6 shots, hitting on 5s. And that is 3 hits, causing damage on 4s with 6s extras. And that is 3 structure points caused. Lastly, with 1 target available in range and altitude, the Flakk Platforms will open up on Ejector Fury number 1 with 6 shots. And that is 1-6, which is a hit, damaging on 5s. And that is no damage caused. The same again for the Grot Bomb adjacent to Marauder Destroyer number 3. 2s to hit. That is a hit. 2s to damage, 4s being extra. And that is extra damage caused. 2 more structure points lost.
Garrison relief, end phase, turn 2. Not an amazing turn for the Imperial Navy. They are very slow to draw targets onto those objectives. The anti-air is doing a great job reducing the structure points on the bombers, and those Grot Bombs have caused some serious damage to Marauder Destroyer number 2.
Yep, things are looking very strong from the Ork defense. The aircraft mostly lined up for landing, and the Imperial Navy having suffered some pretty heavy damage even on their way in. They're yet to feel the full weight of the Ork defenses, however, still remaining at altitude 4.
Garrison relief, turn 3. Maneuvers have been chosen and now rolling for initiative. Oh, that's not good. The Imperial wanted to win that turn.
And the Orks will take initiative. First activation for the Orks, Grot Bomber number 3, completing its landing maneuver by reducing its speed down to 2 and moving from altitude 1 to 0, scoring 15 points for the Orks.
Marauder Destroyer number 2 reduced its speed from 5 to 4 at the beginning of its turn, performing a level flight, and at the end it reduced its altitude from 4 to 3 and then increased its speed from 4 to 5. This will hopefully allow it to perform a bombing run on that grounded Grot Bomber.
Second activation for the ORK AIR WAAAGH Eavy Bomber number 1, also reducing its speed from 3 to 2, completing a level flight maneuver, bringing it down to altitude 0, achieving another 15 victory points for the Orks.
Marauder Destroyer number 3 performs a level flight, reducing its speed from 5 to 4. After executing the move, it reduces its altitude from 4 to 3, so it will be able to bomb in the next turn, and then increases its speed from 4 to 5 thanks to the dive.
Final activation for the ORK AIR WAAAGH. Eavy Bomber number 2 also decelerating from speed 3 to speed 2, completing a level flight maneuver at altitude 1, which brings it into contact with the ground, banking another 15 victory points for the Orks. Correction, only 10 victory points for landing each of the Eavy Bombers instead of 15.
Marauder Bomber number 5 again performs a level flight, reducing its speed from 5 to 4 at the beginning of the movement, then after performing the move, drops its altitude from 4 to 3 and increasing its speed from 4 to 5. The Thunderbolt Fury performs a stoop maneuver, reduces its speed from 6 to 4. After performing the maneuver, it reduces its altitude by 2 to altitude 1 and then gains 2 points of speed, taking it to maximum speed of 6. The final activation for the Imperial Navy is Marauder Bomber number 4, again performing a level flight, reducing its speed from 5 to 4. At the end of its movement, it reduced its altitude to altitude 3, ready for the bombing run in the next turn, and then of course increasing its speed from 4 to 5.
Garrison relief, turn 3 firing phase. The first activation for the Orks, a Flakk Platform firing at short range at the heavily damaged Marauder Destroyer, hoping to bring it down with its 8 shots. However, it is hitting on 6s due to it being 1 point above its effective altitude. 8 shots, hitting on 6s. And that is 1
no!
It does, however, need a 5 to damage. And that is just enough to bring down the Marauder Destroyer.
Next activation is the Imperial Navy. Again, there is no firing from the Navy as they are too high to fire anything down on the Orks. And of course, losing Marauder Destroyer number 2 has stopped any bombing that was able to happen.
For the rest of the Ork air defences, the only things left able to fire this turn, both remaining Flak Platforms will fire at Marauder Destroyer number 3. 8 shots, hitting on 6s. There's 1 cocked die. Oh, and that is 1 hit. 5 to damage, and that is nothing. The same again from the second Flak Platform. 6s to hit. Oh, that is an incredible roll there. 4 potential hits, 5s to damage. Oh, and that is 1 more point of damage caused. The first of the heavy flak cannons will fire at the damaged destroyer with 2 shots at medium range, 5s to hit. Oh, and that is 2 hits. 4s to damage, 6s are extra. Oh, and that is 1 more point of damage caused. The next heavy flak cannon firing 2 shots again, 5s to hit. Oh, that is 1 more hit, 4s to damage, 6s are extra. And that is the last structure point remaining on the Marauder Destroyer. With the Marauder Destroyers removed from the board, the 3 remaining heavy flak cannons will all fire at Marauder number 4. 6 shots combined between them on 5s to hit. That is another excellent roll from the Ork air defences. 4s to damage, 6s are extra.
Oh.
And that is 4 points of damage caused. Garrison relief, end phase of turn 3. An excellent turn for the Orks. Bringing down the 2 Marauder Destroyers takes a huge amount of firepower off the board. The air defences have done an incredible job keeping a huge amount of pressure on the Imperial Navy.
Yep, the Imperial Navy are regretting not starting at altitude 1 and putting some firepower down onto those air defences before they drop their bombs. They were trying to be clever. It hasn't quite worked out, but there are 2 Marauder Bombers primed for a bombing run in the next turn.
Garrison relief, turn 4, onto the initiative step after issuing manoeuvres.
Imperials really need this.
Oh, and it goes to the Imperial Navy.
Garrison relief, turn 1, movement phase. The first activation for the Imperial Navy is Marauder Bomber number 5, performing a level flight, throttling down from speed 5 to 4, flying over its target, dropping its altitude from 3 to 2, and increasing its speed from 4 to 5.
Completing its takeoff by moving at speed 2, regaining altitude 1, and completing a level flight.
Marauder Bomber number 4 is next to activate. It reduces its speed from 5 to 4, flies over the objectives, queuing up its bombing run, and then decreases its altitude to 2 from 3, and then of course increases its speed from 4 to 5 thanks to the dive.
Second activation for the ORK AIR WAAAGH. Grot Bomber number 3 also completing a takeoff maneuver, moving forward at speed 2, altitude 1.
The Thunderbolt Fury performs a level flight, maintaining its current altitude of 2, and will try and fire everything it can at optimum medium range into Eavy Bomber number 2.
Final activation for the Orks, Eavy Bomber number 1, also performing a takeoff maneuver going speed 2 and altitude 1. However, due to the enemy Thunderbolt Fury had to push its engines, on a 1 suffering a structure point of damage. With a 4, the engines are okay.
Garrison relief, turn 4 firing phase. Starting with Marauder Bomber number 4, it will finally get to release its payload upon the enemy target. 8 dice, at altitude 2, requiring 5s to hit. That is a really good start with 2, 4, 5 hits. Damages on 2 with extra on 5s. Oh, that is a humiliating roll. Unbelievable. And only causes 1 damage on that ground asset. The las cannon and the dorsal turret are out of arc or altitude. Only the rear turret can fire, and it will pour its 2 shots into Eavy Bomber number 1, requiring 6s. It's not bad. That is 1 hit and 5s to damage. No, nothing.
First activation for the Orks, a Flakk Platform looking to bring low the Thunderbolt Fury before it can fire. 8 shots at short range, hitting on 2s, hitting on 5s, and that is 1 hit. Damaging also on 5s. Oh, and that is no damage caused.
Next activation is Marauder Bomber number 5 will try and offload its ammo onto the ground asset. Again, 8 dice, requiring 5s. That is a very disappointing 1 hit and will damage on a 2+. Oh, and that is 1 damage caused. Not good. The dorsal turret will have 2 shots into Eavy Bomber number 2, requiring 6s, as there's a point of difference between the 2, and that's a miss.
Next activation for the Orks, another Flakk Platform hoping to bring low the Thunderbolt. 8 shots at short range, hitting on 5s. Oh, that is a much better roll from the Orks here. 4 hits, looking for 5s to damage, needing 2 to bring down the aircraft. Oh, and that is 1 structure point remains on the Thunderbolt Fury.
The Thunderbolt Fury will fire its Avenger Bolt Cannon into the Eavy Bomber number 2 with 7 dice at mid-range and will require 6s to hit. That is only 1 hit. Force damage, double on a 6 or extra. Oh, look at that. 2 damage. Lovely. There are 2 las cannon shots at the same target. 6s. Double would have been nice. The Fury will also fire both of its Skystrike Missiles, requiring 6s. So it's 4 dice. Come on, look at that. That's a double hit. Lovely. Damage on 3, extra on a 6. 2 6s. Okay, that's not too bad. And that's 2 more damage dealt to the Eavy Bomber, leaving it on 2 structure points remaining.
First to activate, a heavy flat cannon firing at short range into the Thunderbolt Fury. Hit twice and caused 1 more structure point of damage, enough to bring down the Thunderbolt Fury. Next to activate, another heavy flat cannon firing at Marauder Bomber number 5 at short range, hitting on 5s. Oh, and that is 1 more hit caused. Damaging on 4s, extras on 6s. Oh, and that is only a 1. Another heavy flat cannon firing at Marauder Bomber number 5. 2 shots hitting on 5s. Oh, and that is no hits at all. 1 remaining heavy flat cannon firing at Marauder Bomber number 5. 2 shots at short range, hitting on 5s. Oh, and that is 2 hits. 4s to damage, 6s are extra. Oh, and that is 2 more points of damage. The last heavy flat cannon firing at Marauder Bomber number 4 is only on 1 structure point remaining. 2 shots hitting on 5s. Oh, and that is no hits. The last activation for the Ork forces is a lone Flakk Platform firing at Marauder Bomber number 4, hoping to take off its last structure point. 8 dice hitting on 5s. Oh, and that is only 2 hits. And needing a 5 to damage. Oh, and the Marauder Bomber survives.
A shocking display from the Marauders there. They should have destroyed the ground asset, netting the Imperial Navy some points. However, it's not meant to be. However, before the Fury got shot down, it put some great damage on the heavy bomber. So not a bad effort.
Conversely, from the Ork defences, putting out some huge amount of volume of fire into the Imperial Navy. Unfortunately, only bringing down the Thunderbolt Fury and causing some light damage on Marauder Bomber number 5 and failing to take off that last hull point on Marauder Bomber number 4.
Garrison relief, turn 5, initiative phase. Maneuvers have been placed. Now we're rolling for initiative.
Oh, came back in. Oh, and it's just enough to beat the Imperials. The Orks will take initiative. First activation for the ORK AIR WAAAGH, Grot Bomber number 3, accelerating to speed 3 and performing a turn maneuver, brought itself back around to hopefully draw some fire onto the enemy Marauder Bombers. At the end of its move, it climbed from altitude 1 to 2, taking it back down to speed 2.
Next to activate was Bomber number 4. Sensing that the other Marauder will probably be destroyed this turn, it is turned tail and making a break, anticipating the disengagement phase will come into play next turn, and is trying to get off the board to conserve some points.
Second to activate for the ORK AIR WAAAGH, Eavy Bomber number 2, performing a turn maneuver, accelerating from speed 2 to 3, and then turning to draw its front arc into fire in the retreating Marauder Bomber. At the end of its move, it increases its altitude from 1 to 2, decreasing its speed back down from 3 to 2. Yeah.
Marauder Bomber number 5, unfortunately unable to get another bomb drop on the objective, performs a swoop maneuver, dropping its speed from 5 to 4 and maintaining its altitude at altitude 2. Hopefully it will be able to bring its rear and dorsal turrets on some Ork targets.
Final activation for the ORK AIR WAAAGH, Eavy Bomber number 1 performs a turn maneuver, using its movement to bring its side arc into range, although at long range, against the retreating Marauder Bomber. It increases its speed from 2 to 3, and then at the end of its move climbs from altitude 1 to 2, decreasing its speed back down to 2. Garrison relief, turn 5 firing phase. First activation for the ORK AIR WAAAGH is Eavy Bomber number 2, beginning with its nose turret, firing at the fleeing Marauder Bomber ahead of it. 4 shots, hitting on 5s. Oh, that is a strong roll from the Bomber with 2 hits. 5s to damage. Oh, 1 out of the tray, but that's 1 point of damage. Oh, nearly a second, but that is 1 point of damage caused. Excellent work from the Bomber there. That was all the Marauder Bomber had left, and that is destroyed. Having destroyed its frontal target, its starboard and dorsal turrets will fire at Marauder Bomber number 5 at medium range with combined 5 shots, hitting on 5s.
Oh my word.
This heavy Bomber is doing some heavy lifting for the team. Damaging on 5s with its 3 hits. And there's 1 more structure point of damage caused with 2 remaining.
The last remaining Marauder Bomber will fire its dorsal turret into the Eavy Bomber with 2 shots at mid-range, requiring 5s at the same altitude, and that is a fail. Finally, the rear turret will fire 2 shots at medium range into Eavy Bomber number 1, again requiring 5s being at the same altitude, and that is nothing. A disappointing round of shooting there from the Marauder.
Lastly, with all of the Flakk Platforms on the table, firing at the same target, there are 20 shots hitting on 5s. Oh, that's a good roll there. There are 7 hits from all the Flakk Platforms. There are 2 structure points remaining. There are 5s to damage. Oh, and that is 3 structure points taken. That brings down the last Marauder Bomber. Garrison relief, turn 5 end phase. An incredible round of shooting for the Orks. The Eavy Bomber bringing down one of the Marauder Bombers, all the combined AA fire bringing down the last one, and the Imperial Navy is swept from the table.
The Imperial Navy didn't stand a chance against that huge amount of firepower from the Ork ground assets there. But what a thrilling game. We'll go back and tot up some victory points and get back to you. I had a plan, but I didn't stick to it. What an idiot.
Oh, plans never survive contact with the enemy, and the Orks, they were firing from pretty early days.
Oh, God.
And yeah, it's a long way to come down from altitude 5.
It is a long way. Because I changed my mind. I kitted out all of the planes to have like air-to-ground missiles, thinking I'd kill some off in the first couple of turns. But when I actually got to the game and I set up, I thought, I know, I'll start altitude 5 and work my way down. But it took me a long time.
Yeah, especially sort of being capped around speed 5 and 6 between the bombers and the fighter.
Yeah,
means you can't dive too quickly. Yeah. And took a long time flying down into artillery fire.
Oh, it was madness. Okay, I did escape some firepower in the first couple of turns, perhaps, but if I'd taken some turrets out, it would have been less firepower throughout the course of the game, because towards the end, when we were over your deployment zone, you just ripped me out of the sky.
Yeah, and especially losing those first 3 turns with no shooting at all. Let the bombers get in, land, and get back up off the ground without being attacked at all.
Yeah.
I think there was the 1 bomber that died just before it managed to drop its load, but then it only had 1 structure point by that point anyway. So.
And then obviously the appalling bombing run. I got 4 or 5 hits on the target, but rolled 4 1s, I think it was.
Yeah.
Holy hell. Well, that was an absolute perfect demonstration of how not to play that mission. So I'll make your mistakes, you make a good on a game. So a shocking turn, but really fun having those ground assets, because I think they're a bit of an afterthought, the assets.
Yeah, but playing a game focused around them, it was a very different way of playing, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we also saw a lot of upgrades on those aircraft as well, and particularly the Imperial Navy. Took some ejector seats. Only one of them came into play at the end of the game, so managed to save myself some points there. But yeah, I don't know, 2 points. If you've got some spare, it's worth it.
It was not enough to close that gap, unfortunately.
It was not enough to close 177 to 25. So yeah, we'll see how it goes next time.
Yeah, thank you very much for watching today, though. That's all for us today, and we will see you guys in the next one.